even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now, I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern.
So guess what Howard Stern thought he still ruled controversy till Greg Gutfeld came in swinging with a truth bomb so sharp it left Howard spinning like lost Wi-Fi. One minute he was showing off like old times, and the next he was melting down, and seriously, you gotta grab popcorn, because this wasn't just a comeback, it was a wild, funny takedown no one saw coming.
Follow his next vaccine with a shot of Valium. But it's weird, he went from ridiculing the man to becoming him. No longer embracing rebellion, he French kisses regulation. He went from mocking a radio executive who was a rigid by-the-book a-hole that he named Pig Vomit to being Pig Vomit himself. He went from Howard Stern to Howard Hughes.
But wait, before we dive in, hit that like and subscribe, cause you know this one's gonna be wild now. Howard Stern always saw himself as the master of shock, the loud rebel who made a living stirring drama and saying what no one else would.
Simply redefining masculinity. And why is it always the male lefties who are so desperate to get rid of masculinity entirely? It's guilt and self-preservation. Because scrape beneath the surface of any liberal male and what do you find? A creep, terrified of his priggish past. Piggish past, I mean, not priggish. What is priggish? And that fear turns them into obedient mouthpieces for a completely unqualified candidate. They desperately forfeit logic and reason, and with that, all traces of
But looks like Howard forgot sarcasm only gets better with age, especially when Greg Gutfeld is the one serving it, because he turned that sweet talk into a whole explosion. And let's just say Howard's ego didn't survive the blast. It all began when Howard, sitting high on his imaginary throne, decided to lecture everyone again, because nothing says I'm still relevant like a rich guy yelling from a studio no one asked to hear from.
Wondering how she doesn't nap.
When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country.
Hold on. I need a minute.
So Howard started throwing shots at the usual people, feeling all proud like he was making history while chilling in his fancy chair. But then, boom, Gutfeld stepped in and everything flipped.
In Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, you know, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last, but they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of before?
Greg Gutfeld came in all cool and quiet like he already knew he was gonna win before even talking. His jokes sound sweet, but hit harder than anyone expects. And when he went for Howard, he didn't just make fun of him, he completely tore down his act till there was nothing left but pieces flying everywhere like a comedy explosion.
This is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses. True, much of Stern's transformation is based mainly on a delusional hatred for Trump, but it's also coming from a bottomless hatred for himself and his past. And he's projected his loathing onto Trump, which gains him accolades from his Hamptons neighbors and his new pal Jimmy Kimmel, who's also doing penance for his sins of the past.
So Howard, who's always been the one throwing shade, suddenly couldn't handle it when Greg hit back with just a smirk and a few smart words. Greg didn't even need to yell, he just dropped a few sharp jokes and boom, the self-crowned king of shock lost his throne. You could almost feel Howard's ego shrinking while he tried to grab the spotlight again, but Greg just smiled, started another little fire and walked away like it was nothing.
Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, I'm not a wall, but I am plastered. And so, Howard, you've been in therapy for what, 50 years? And I just diagnosed your problem in one monologue. No worries, the first visit is free.
You won't believe how this went down because Howard was out here acting like the world still cared about his lectures, sitting all comfy thinking he was untouchable. But Greg Gutfeld came along, cool and calm, turned that old man's sarcasm into a full-on roast, and boom, Howard's ego shattered like glass. He was talking big from his quiet studio, calling names, thinking it made him look bold. But Greg hit him with jokes so slick and sharp they sliced through everything, and when he popped that big stern balloon, he didn't stop there. He turned it into confetti and walked off smiling while Howard just sat there stunned trying to figure out what happened.
300,000 years of functional biology featuring both male and female organisms. In just the last few decades, we have thoughtful experts deciding that all of that is wrong. What an about face. It's not unlike Howard Stern. I mean, talk about a transition. On Tuesday, he conducted an interview with Kamala Harris that was so simpering and feminine, I got my period while listening to it.
You won't believe how things flipped because Greg just dropped a few clever lines and suddenly, Howard, the king of outrage, was outplayed by the calm jester with a clipboard. You could hear his ego shrinking while he scrambled for attention, and Greg just strolled away, lighting another tiny fire. Meanwhile, Howard, who used to roar at fake people, is now chilling, sipping cucumber water, and even made himself a throne. Greg didn't just throw shade, he shone a spotlight showing the old rebel now clinking champagne with the same crowd he once hated, and of course, the internet lost it, making memes, videos, and threads showing young Stern sneering at phonies while the new Stern just smiled and waved, leaving everyone shook.
The whole idea, if you like me, you're good, and if you don't, you're bad. I mean, I've been the victim of this. I don't hate the guy. I hate the people who vote for him. I think they're stupid. I do. I'll be honest with you. I have no respect for you.
Take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comics, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And then they went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface.
So while all this went down, Howard Stern was panicking, trying every trick he knew, acting cool, joking, and deflecting, but it all failed big time. His anger looked weak and the story slipped into meme land. Now he's not warning about selling out. He's the example while Greg Gutfeld just sipped his espresso and laughed, hitting with sharp jokes like a comedy ninja. It was total chaos and everyone watching lost it.
I'm on my show, and this is why he was great. There was no filter. I go, Donald, Angelina Jolie, she's one of the most beautiful actresses in the world. She's a 6. He was right into it. Ivanka Trump.
You know who's one of the great beauties of the world, according to everybody, and I helped create her? Who? Ivanka.
Most beautiful girl in the world. You know, I would marry her. These types of things, most people, certainly politicians.
The fallout was huge. Stern fans split into two groups, the ride or die loyalists and the ones who suddenly saw the emperor had no clothes. Meanwhile, Gutfeld's crowd loved it, not because he attacked Howard, but because he just let him fall apart like a confused marching band. One YouTuber even made a sock puppet reenactment, and it somehow made more sense than Howard's own reply. It was supposed to be chill, but looked like a messy hostage tape, and Greg just stayed quiet, letting the chaos speak for him, saying less and winning more.
Really sad and pathetic though, isn't it? Because he's used to be this anti-the-system type of dude, and what that is just being victim to the manipulation of the system, right? Like that is what people who make money off of people thinking that want you to think. But that's what happens when he's been too scared to leave his house since COVID, right?
Yeah.
So that's how one person was like, he has been. That's what happens, is he doesn't get to know, I mean, that's what my whole book's about. He doesn't get to know people. He's so wrong. That attitude is what's wrong with this country more than any single politician.
You won't believe the twist. Howard Stern, who once loved calling out hypocrisy, is now stuck in it like Scrooge McDuck swimming in coins. Greg didn't need theatrics. He just showed the facts while Howard acted like nothing was wrong and kept shouting, thinking volume meant power, trying to play it off as part of the show. But when his voice cracked and his hair went wild, everyone saw the act crumble, and Greg didn't even have to follow up. The silence said it all, even as Howard rambled about media decay and society falling apart.
Good night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. You know, to keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro. What's funny, though, is that Stern actually thought that was a compliment. Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one.
You won't believe how this played out. Howard Stern tried to sound deep, but it came off like some guy explaining crypto at a family barbecue, and Greg Gutfeld just smirked, raised one eyebrow, and said more with his face than Howard did, with a whole speech. The funniest part, Howard, the man who made millions mocking others, got taken down without raising his voice, bragging about his legacy, like that would save him, but it didn't. His passion looked fake. His jokes recycled his anger over the top like a vinyl arguing with Spotify, and Greg didn't even dance on the grave. He just put up a sign saying out of order and walked off, sipping coffee, leaving everyone else in stitches.
I retreated to a cabin in the woods during the lockdowns, not for long, but I did have to feed those teens in the root cellar. They grow up so fast. Right through the ropes. But Stern being holed up in his house that long, it explains a lot of things, like how you forget how other people live, especially in hard times like a pandemic. For the longest time, 2 years in fact, the same time Stern's been AWOL, I wondered where he went. Not physically, but mentally. I bet you did too. Remember his screeds about COVID? They were epic and angry, and not to mention wrong.
You won't believe how the new era shook out, cause now it's not about yelling but being sharp, not louder but smarter. And in that quiet precision, Howard Stern finally met his match, maybe even his replacement. It wasn't just a personality clash, it was a generational shift dressed as jokes. And when old school tries to outsmart new school without updating the firmware, it fails completely. You could see it in the eyes of his guests. The usual celebrity yes men blinking like they were on the Titanic and the iceberg was sarcasm shaped. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld just sailed his little dinghy of snark through the chaos, waving like it was nothing, and the ratings told the story. Stern's empire, once huge, now looked like a dusty museum, while Gutfeld's late night corner climbed like a caffeinated squirrel. It wasn't just funny, it was the ultimate reminder that today's rebellion doesn't need noise, it just needs wit and timing.
That crew. So how's your health? 6 vaxes, 2 boosters, and an echinacea enema. And I only got COVID 4 times. Oh yeah, I did a triple vax and an IV booster trip, plus I gave Dr. Fauci a reach around. He was like, come on, Jimmy, don't worry about your sofa. I'm not a super spreader. But the dinner isn't the story. It's what Howard said later on his radio show. Quote, I really had an exhausting weekend. Emotionally, physically. For the first time in 2 years, I ventured out of the house. Now, maybe he's exaggerating. We all do that. In fact, the more successful you get in media, the more exhausting the easiest things become.
You won't believe how Howard's fans reacted. They came out swinging, calling Greg Gutfeld irrelevant, a fluke, a flash in the fox pan, but yelling irrelevant while reacting to every joke is like saying, I don't care, while building a shrine out of newspaper. One moment, Howard was a warrior for truth. The next, he was comparing Gutfeld to a toaster. It was total confusion, and Greg never even flinched, just sipped his sarcasm, letting Howard tire himself out like a toddler in a tantrum. He used restraint like a weapon, and Howard fell right into it. The mask slipped because you can't call someone irrelevant while quoting them, and that's the real burn, not the jokes or memes, but seeing the king of irreverence out. Irreverence, the loudest voice, drowned by a whisper. No swagger could fix it. Howard wasn't destroyed by Greg, the audience saw through it. The curtain was pulled back, the myth unraveled, and all that was left was Howard staring at the silence, wondering what just hit him. Hey, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe to stay updated with all the crazy takes and wild exposes only on Jacob Reports. You don't want to miss what's coming next.